Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Attract and Stand Out Virtual Summit. I'm your host, Darlene Holly. And for those of you that don't know me, I'm a personal branding and business clarity coach, and I help ambitious, heart-centered online entrepreneurs. I teach them how to create a successful personal brand and business by building a solid brand foundation so they can share their message with the world, attract dream clients, and make more money doing what they love. This year's summit is all about building a profitable personal brand and business that allows you to authentically show up and connect with your audience. And I'm so excited to be featuring so many amazing business owners who are sharing their powerful stories with you during this virtual summit. Today, I'm interviewing one of my great friends, Liz Green. She is a book coach behind Green Goose Writing, or Green Goose Writing. I said ghost, Green Goose Writing. She helps leaders who feel drawn to share a message close to their heart, but are stuck trying to get it on the page. They're afraid of screwing up their opportunity and ruining their reputation, or that of their organizations. She helps them finally finish their book, know that it's good, and use it to make the world a better place. Welcome, Liz. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
I am so glad you're here. So tell us a little bit about Liz and how you started your business and how you came to be a book coach.
I started my business reluctantly. I always thought being an entrepreneur sounded like too much responsibility for my liking. In 2013, I was working in a corporate job, cubicle job, as an event planner, and I got sick. I got really sick. I developed a chronic pain condition, and I couldn't work anymore. And over the years, I kind of started to get a bit better, started to manage my pain better, but I still wasn't really reliable. You know, I didn't feel like I could show up to an office and sit there from 9 till 5 reliably every day. I still had doctor's appointments going on. So I kind of started my business out of necessity. I needed some money. I needed some way to feel like I was still useful in the world. And so I started working from home. And originally my business, I was writing blogs for people. And I did that for a little while. Then it morphed into helping people write their books, business books, self-help books, all kinds of nonfiction books for people who wanted to show authority in their niche, you know, demonstrate that they knew what they were talking about, help get people into their sales funnels. And I've started working with a lot of people, writing a lot of books like that. And eventually I realized that my favorite part of writing books, I wrote 14 books with people, and eventually realized that my favorite part was helping people figure out what their books were about and how to get to the heart of what they really wanted to say and how to say it so that it actually came across right, so that people actually knew what the hell they were talking about. And that morphed over time into book coaching. So now I work with leaders who they want to write their books themselves. They feel drawn to write something to share their message, but they're just getting stuck. You know, for some reason, it's just not coming out and they're frustrated, and they know that they've got something that could help people if only they could get it on page. So I coach them through the process now so that they can actually get their books finished and out into the world.
That's amazing, because I know so many people who want to share their story and they feel like a book would be a great way to help grow their business and get their name out into the world. But sometimes it's hard. I know for myself, like just sitting down and writing a blog post sometimes, like it takes a lot of brain power and you feel like you're messing it up and you're like, am I even sharing something that's valuable? So to sit down and create a whole entire book based off of, you know, information that's in our head and our life story and kind of like what's brought us to be to where we are today, like that can be overwhelming and stressful. How do you help people like know it's even the right time to write a book? Like, is there a right time to write a book, or how does that kind of play into it?
Yeah, that's what I'm really thrilled that we're having this conversation today, because I think there are so many people who know they've got something to share, something that could help at least someone, maybe many people. And you feel that, you know, it would be good for your business. You know, if you could have a book, it would help people get to know, like, and trust you. It would help you demonstrate your authority in your area. It could get you speaking gigs. It could get you media attention. it could do all these great things and you know it would be a good thing, but you've also got that conflict of you're trying to run a business. Maybe you're trying to be a mum as well. Like, I know you've got 4 kids. I've got a son. You've got family. You've got my in-laws coming over next weekend. You've got all these things going on in life. And how do you find time for it? And you end up feeling bad because you want to write a book and you're thinking about writing a book and it's in the back of your head all the time and you're wishing you were writing and feeling guilty for not doing the thing that you really wish you were doing. And then if you do start writing, you get frustrated because it's harder than you thought it was going to be, or you're feeling bad because you feel like you should be off playing with your kid or making dinner for your in-laws or whatever it might be. So you get in this where you're not winning either way. And what I really want to do for people is help you realize that you don't have to be stuck in this cycle of feeling bad because you're not writing when you really want to be writing, or feeling bad because you're writing and you're not doing all the other things.
Yeah.
You don't have to get stuck there. And the way to get out of that cycle is to decide if writing a book is right for you right now. And so over time, over working with dozens and dozens of people, I've seen these 3 questions come up over and over again that really help people zone in on whether this is the right thing for them right now. And it doesn't mean you can't revisit it further down the line, but if you can ask yourself these 3 questions, get clear on whether this is something you should be prioritizing right now, then you can either just get on and do it, or you can let go of the bad feelings about the fact that you're not writing when you feel that tug on your heart.
Yeah, and I love that, because sometimes we need to give ourselves permission, right? To say, like, now is not the right time. Like for me, I want to write a book one day. I've known that since I was probably like 12 or 13. I always said, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write a book. And this was before I was even like an entrepreneur and like had something to even like feel like I could write about. But I wanted to write a book. And I still feel like in the season of life with little ones at home still, like this isn't my season to write the book. But that doesn't mean in like maybe like the next 5 years that I'll be ready, because my kids will be older. They're not going to need quite as much, like they're still going to need my love and attention, but not at like the same level as when they're small. So I feel like it'll open up more space for me. So I had to like tell myself, like, stop beating yourself up. Like you're going to write a book one day. You don't have to do it tomorrow, but like not worry about it. Like, and if you say like, I'm going to do it in like 5-10 years, like when the time's ready, versus like saying, I'm going to write a book, I should be writing a book. Like you don't have to hold on to that guilt, right? Because at least I feel like, as so many women I talk to, like we hold on, like we want to do all these things and it eats at us. And that's what we're thinking about at 3 a.m. And all we have to do is give ourselves permission. Like, okay, it's not the right time right now. It doesn't mean it's never going to happen. It just means it's not time yet.
Exactly. And the beauty of you giving yourself permission to let go of that for this season, when you've got the kids at the younger age, is that it frees you up mentally and emotionally to give to all the other things that you want to do. And it's not like you're saying no, never. You're just saying not right now. And then you're free from that, and you can shelve it for now and come back to it later on when things might be different.
Yeah. And life's always going to be busy. Let's be realistic. Like every season's different, and we always have things going on. But when we make that a priority for that new season, I think it's like when it changes, like we'll be able to focus on it at the right time. So you alluded that there's 3 questions that you ask your clients. Will you share those with us? Like, what are those 3 questions?
No, I'm kidding, of course, yeah. So there are 3 questions that I ask people to go through to determine if they're ready to write a book right now. So the question number 1, and I'll list the 3 questions, and then we can talk a bit more about what they mean.
Okay.
Question number 1 is, do you know the theme of your story? Question number 2 is, will other people benefit from your theme? Specifically, will your ideal client benefit from your theme? Now, question number 3 is, do you understand how your book will fit into your business? So do you know the theme of your story? Will your ideal client benefit from your theme? And do you understand how a book will fit into your business?
I love that.
Yeah. So, I mean, the question number 1, do you know the theme of your story? Theme is kind of easier to see with fiction stories, but some examples that I use quite often. Dare to Lead by Brené Brown, or pretty much any of Brené Brown's work if you're familiar with her.
They're sitting right next to me.
It's a great book. And she took
Yes.
in Dare to Lead, which is I think her most recent one.
Mhm.
It, I would say the theme is to be a great leader, you have to choose courage over comfort. A really popular book in writing circles is War of Art by Stephen Pressfield.
Mhm.
I would say the theme of that book is resistance is an enemy you must do battle with. Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, the woman who wrote Eat, Pray, Love.
Yes.
She talks in that book, the theme I would say is develop a relationship with your creativity and then you can create magic. I have a 2-year-old right now, so I recently read Old Crap Potty Training.
And that had a great theme.
Yeah, the theme was you don't have to be afraid of potty training. It does not have to be as bad as you think it will be.
Yes.
The Harry Potter series, I love Harry Potter. I would say the theme of that is brave people can defeat evil. But here's the really interesting thing with themes. Some people, I've had this conversation with some other people and they've said, no, Liz, you don't know what you're talking about. The theme of Harry Potter is that mudbloods and magical people and squibs are all equal. It's about equality. And somebody else might say, no, it's about friendship. It's about these 3 friends who lean on each other and achieve incredible things. And so theme, you can ask 10 people the theme of one book and they'll come up with 10 different answers.
Yeah.
We're not talking about finding a theme of your story that everyone can agree on. I'm saying when you look at your story, your life, no matter how much of it you want to share in your book, I'm guessing if you're thinking about writing a book, it's a little bit informed or a lot informed by your own experiences, by what you've seen in life or accomplished in life or learned in life. So you want to look at your story and say, what is the theme of this story to me? It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks at this point. The point is, do you have a through point, like those examples I just gave, from your own experiences that you are considering sharing in a book? Do you know what the theme of your story is to you? And if you can identify that, that's a really good sign. If you can't, maybe I'm going to say you haven't had enough time to process your story yet, or you haven't reached a point in your story yet where you can make sense of it enough to convey it to someone else. And that's okay. These things take time. Life is crazy. All sorts of things happen.
Yeah.
But if you want to put it into a book, you need to be able to make sense of the story of your story enough to share it with somebody else. So you've got to be able to understand what the theme is of your experiences and the things you want to share.
Yeah, and that makes sense. So like if somebody is considering writing their book right now and they're not sure about what their theme, how does working with you, are you able to help people find that theme, or is it something that kind of people have to sit back and do on their own, or what does that process look like when it comes to making sure they're super clear on their theme so they have like a foundation for their book?
Yeah, for some people watching this, it's going to be really clear to you. You're like, I know what this story is. This is a story of, overcoming XYZ or dealing with this and that. And that's great. If it's more fuzzy to you, there are a couple of things you can do. You can do journaling, you can meditate, just think about things as you're going for a walk, whatever your jam is. Often it's really helpful to get another person in, because other people can see the stuff in ourselves that we can't see. We're too close to. So talking out, as I do book coaching with people, this is a lot of what we do. We talk stuff out, and I'll say to someone, it sounds like what you really went through was blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, I never thought of it like that. It's totally that. And because you're so close to it, you can't realize that. So talking it out with someone, whether it's a book coach like me or a friend over a glass of wine, someone you trust, someone who's not going to judge, that can make a world of difference in figuring out the theme in what you've experienced and what you want to share with people.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think just having somebody that's like a sounding board, like you said, just to say it out loud sometimes, and have somebody like say back what they hear you saying. Like, we don't know what we don't know. We're so close to it sometimes that we can't see like the whole big picture because we're like right smack in the middle of it. So I love that, just like having open up a dialogue and having that conversation piece is so gold.
Yeah, exactly. So then that leads us into question number 2.
Yes.
So if you've figured out what your theme is, or you're getting close, you've got a hunch of what this is, your story, what you want to share in your potential book is all about. The next question is, will your ideal client benefit from that theme? So I worked with a woman last year who the theme of her story, as she put it to me, was that her dad was a piece of work. Not the word she used, but that's what we'll call it for here.
That's the PG version.
Yeah, right. He was a piece of, and oh man, this guy, when she told me like her life story, he was a piece of work. But that doesn't really do anything for anyone other than her. Writing about the fact that her dad was a piece of work, it was cathartic for her. It was really like kind of therapy for her to let it all out on the page and to revisit all those things that happened in her childhood and teenage years and to put it out there. She was a changed woman by the end of our work together, like by the time when we started doing this work. But it didn't really help anyone else to know that her dad was a piece of work. So we started talking together, and because she wanted, like I suspect people watching this want to do, is they want to write a book to help their business, to develop their business, to bring clients in, to get people to know, like, and trust them. So we talked about how could this help other people. She's a business coach for young women who have had a rough life and who want to start a business. The theme was perfect for this because it showed her ideal client that she overcame some really tough stuff with her family and built a business and was being successful. And so the theme was, you can have a piece of work parent and still build a brilliant business and do great things in the world. So that was something that helped her ideal client. So you got to think about it. If you're going to write for your business, is it actually going to help your business? Which sounds so obvious when I say it, but so often we forget to think about that part. We just think about what we want to write. But we got to to other people.
And if, as business owners, like, we're creating content for our ideal client. And sometimes we're lucky enough that we were our ideal client at one point. So those stories can kind of mesh and build together. But if we only keep in mind ourselves, it's not going to attract our clients to us. It's not going to like be written for people that we're trying to attract to us. It's going to be like pushing them away almost because we're just writing to ourselves. And if you want to write a memoir, right, like, go for it. Like, there's nothing wrong with doing that, but growing a business and using it as like another stepping stone or a platform for getting your message out there and for attracting people in, like, it has to resonate with somebody. It can't just resonate with you.
Right. And you hit the nail on the head. If your theme isn't going to benefit your ideal client, that's okay. Write your memoir, write whatever you want to write for catharsis, right? Just to get it off your chest. That's great. But it's not a business building activity. That's a hobby. And hobbies are awesome. I love hobbies. But just be aware of what you're doing there, that you're not writing a business book or a book that's going to benefit your business. In that case, you're writing something for another purpose, and that's a noble and good and awesome purpose, but it's not something to build your business. So just having that awareness of what's going on with you.
Yeah. Do you feel like a lot of people come to you with a more of a memoir style writing idea, and you have, like, do you ever have to have those conversations? Like, this is great, but this isn't going to help build your business. And do you have to tweak it with them to like create a book that would benefit their business? Or do you encourage them like, hey, let's write this book, but let's think of something else for your business? Like, what do those conversations look like? Because I can imagine like somebody comes to you with like, hey, my dad was a piece of work, like, help me work through this. I want to write a book on it. And you're like, well, that's great, but let's like, we have to do so much work to like turn it into something.
Such a good question, because I get this all the time. People come to me and they say, look, I've had this experience in my life. I learned this, or I went through this. I want to help other people. And they're like, I kind of want to share my story, but I don't want it to be too self-indulgent. And I want to help other people, but I need to share my own story, but I don't want it all to be about me. I want it to be about how to help them as well. Or they say, I don't know how much of my own story to include in this. I want it to be helping other people. Because a lot of the people I work with, I tend to find people who are, they're about service. They want to serve people. They want to give. They're very aware of, helping other people through the things that they've learned through their business. It's why they started their business in the first place. And they don't know how much of their own story to share in the book, or if it should be all memoir, or if it should just have a couple of stories. And I love this conversation because I see people like, it becomes so easy when we think about, does this serve our ideal client? When you've got a story and you're like, this was really pivotal in my life, this thing that happened to me, but I don't know if I should talk about it in the book or not. Does it serve your ideal client? Is it going to be of benefit to them? And if it's kind of off on a tangent and it was a really big deal in your life, but it's not actually going to help your ideal client with what they're dealing with right now, then you can let go of that and you don't need to include it if you don't want to. If you really want to, you can. But if you don't have to, you don't have to include everything that's ever happened to you. But also, sometimes there are things that were really pivotal, a really big deal, and you're kind of hesitant and you're like, I don't know if I should include this or not. We ask that question, we see that it is of benefit to the ideal client and that they really would get a lot out of hearing that story. And knowing that makes a lot of people feel braver about sharing those difficult things. And the bottom line is, it's your book. You don't have to write anything you don't want to write.
Exactly.
When you see how much it could help someone, the person you really want to help, it makes it so much easier to be like, you know what? Maybe I'll change a couple of identifying details about that bad person.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to include this story because it will really help someone. And that just approaching it from that perspective gives so much clarity. And I love how people can stop wrestling with it. They can just, it helps you make a lot of decisions when you're writing.
Yeah. And like I work with a lot of my clients for helping them write their brand story, like how they came to start their business and their origin story. And one of the things that I always tell them too, speaking of Brene Brown earlier, is like, you don't share the scar, not the wound. Like she says, like there's certain stories that maybe you're not even ready to share yet. Like maybe it's still too emotional. So some of those, like, I can imagine, like if somebody has like, a piece of crap dad who like did all these things, like how, like maybe they're not even ready to share some of those stories. And that's why they're struggling in their writing, like for even including it, because maybe it's still too raw. It's still too emotional. There's still too many things that they're holding on to that they haven't let go yet. So making sure they're ready to share those stories too. Like sometimes maybe you have to go to therapy a little bit, like work through some of that stuff so you can like share their story the right way to where it's going to impact your ideal client and you're not like held up in so much of it still too.
Yeah, this is why I love thinking about the theme of your story, because I tend to find that if people can identify the theme of their story in a couple of sentences, say, then it means that they've reached the point where they're recovered enough from the wound, that it's scabbed over enough that they can have that perspective and talk about it a little bit, with some eloquence and a little bit of help. They've given it the time that it needs to scab over, and it's not that open, gaping wound anymore.
Yeah, you're not like verbally vomiting like your whole entire
which is okay, but that usually tends to be a journal, the verbal vomit stuff. And good stuff can come out of journals, but if that's what you're doing, you're more likely to be doing journaling than writing a book.
Writing a book, yeah, that's a great point. All right, so question 3, let's dig a little bit into that then.
Number 3, do you understand how your book will fit into your business? And I alluded to this a little bit before, but if you're writing a book that you want to actually benefit your business, to bring customers in, to get people to know, like, and trust you, to demonstrate that you know what you're talking about, to get you speaking engagements, and things, media attention, all of that kind of stuff. That's the stuff that a book can really help with. If you're thinking that a book will help you, frankly, with revenue, money, just from selling copies, that's not a good plan. Nielsen is a company who does a lot of these book sales measurements, and they say that only about 250 books each year will sell 100,000 copies or more. And they say that these days the average nonfiction book sells less than 250 copies a year. And that's kind of a bummer when you hear those stats. Yeah. You're like, if I'm going to put all this effort into writing a book and it's not even going to sell anything, like, who are these people buying books? Why? I mean, like, what is the deal with that? And the deal is that you are unlikely to make your business revenue goals by selling copies of a book. It just doesn't happen that way. But the book can still be worth it if it can do all those other things we talked about, which they can. Get you paid speaking opportunities where you can bring in thousands of dollars of income from speaking because somebody got to know you because of the book. Yeah. Or because somebody signs up for your one-on-one services, pays thousands of dollars for a package to work with you because they read the book and were so on board and knew that they just were desperate to work with you. Or because the book gets you media attention and then all these people come onto your website and you get all these email signups. So it's always the things that happen around the book that make it really worthwhile. And you have to understand that to make it worth investing the time and energy into writing your book. If you are banking on selling 1 million copies and taking that money literally home to the bank, you're going to be disappointed, and that's really hard. I don't like people going through that. So I want to make sure that if you're considering putting this time and energy into writing a book, you understand why you're doing it. It's not to meet your revenue goals for this year directly from book sales. It's to do all the things around the book that will help you meet your revenue goals. But it's a little bit indirect.
Yeah, it's just another tool in your toolbox to use to get people to know who you are. It's kind of like more like a marketing tool then at that point, correct? It's something that you can host a workshop and everybody, you might get paid for it and everybody gets a book for free as attending the workshop, or you can use it as, for new clients, like as an introductory, like, hey, read my book. It's got some great tips in it. This is kind of how I work with my clients. So it's more of a tool to help bring people in. And like you said, like the know, like, trust factor, after somebody reads a book, it gives you some of that authority, that leadership role, just because you have a book to go with it. But it doesn't mean it's going to make you rich tomorrow. Like you still have to do the work.
Exactly. It's not get rich quick scheme. Definitely not. It is, it's still fantastic. And we got to talk, when we talk about if a book is worth it, we got to talk about the other kind of sneaky thing, which is that a lot of people, you've got all these reasons why writing a book is a great thing, like we talked about, getting you speaking opportunities, getting you clients, blah, blah, blah. Frankly, a lot of people want to write a book just because they want to write a book. Like you said, since you're a kid, feeling like, I want to write a book one day. So many of us have that feeling. And that feeling is worthy and worthwhile. And, we don't need to shove it off in the corner and pretend it doesn't exist. But we need to acknowledge it and say, like, okay, do I want to write a book just because I want to write a book? In which case, how does that affect my priorities list with how I'm going to make time to do this? Yeah. Or do I want to write a book because I understand how it's going to fit into my business plan? And how does that then impact where it sits on my priorities list? And it's going to be different depending on how you're approaching it. So it's just having that awareness.
Yeah. So if somebody like listening to this presentation, like said, like they checked off question 1, they checked off question 2, they checked off question 3, and they're like, yes, like I've got all my ducks kind of lined up. How do they benefit by working with like you as a book coach? What types of techniques and tools do you use with them to help them create their book?
Great question. So if you look at all those questions and you're like, yes, I knew it, or like, holy crap, maybe this is going to be a good thing for me, and I've been putting it off forever because I wasn't confident that I was ready to do it. Hopefully these questions can help you realize that maybe you are ready, and it is a great thing to dive into. when you work with a book coach, they can help you figure out what all this jumble of ideas in your brain is. You might be very clear, or maybe you just know that you've got something to share, but you don't really know how to share it, or what order to put it out in, or what do people need to know first, or what is this even going to look like? A book coach can help you work through all the fuzziness, all the jumble of ideas, so that you can get clear, really clear about what you want to say and how it's going to help people. And then the really, really fun thing is that then the writing becomes easier, because it's so easy to like open up a Google Doc or a Word doc or whatever you're working with and be like, I'm going to start writing. And then you sit there and you're like, one day, I don't know what to say now.
Yeah, you're like, once upon a time.
Once upon a time, there was a girl called Darlene. But if you're clear, if you know what you want to say because you've figured it out with someone and you've talked back and forward and been like, well, maybe I should talk about this. Oh, but if I'm going to talk about this, then I need to first talk about that so that they understand this other thing. Or, but maybe this comes into it. If you've talked it out with someone, then when you sit down to actually write, you know what you're writing. You just, and it's all in your, that subject is all in your head. So if you're like, okay, the first thing I need to tell my reader about is this thing that happened to me when I was 12 that made me always want to write a book, then you know that story, you know that that's the first thing you got to write. So you can just get on with it and just get it down on the page. And the writing comes so much easier when you know what you're doing. But if you haven't done it before, how can you know what you're doing? And that's where working with someone in some way, like a book coach, really comes into play.
Yeah, no, I can totally see how it would help keep it more structured, and like how working with you would like give you like a template or an outline to use versus just sitting down with like a blank like even if I'm writing a blog post, like if I just sit down with like maybe a half of an idea in a blank sheet of paper, it'll take me hours to write something. But if I have something kind of formulated and I have like an outline written out of, share a story, share, 3 tips about what I learned from that story or whatever, like it's easier to put framework to it when you kind of have an outline. And so I can totally see how working with you to formulate that would be so easy.
Yeah, you can formulate the outline, and it doesn't need to be some restrictive, like you can only write about this thing. It can be just guideposts telling you how to share your story and your experience and your advice for other people in a way that's really going to make them feel like you're taking them by the hand and guiding them along every step of the journey. And that is so beautiful when somebody feels like an author's just got them and is just guiding them and not letting them miss a step, not letting them trip or letting their mind wander off somewhere else, but the author's just really got them and are taking them gently from one thing to the next to show them everything that they need to understand on this subject. And when you can do that for a reader, oh, those are the best books.
Yeah. No, I feel like I can totally envision like so many people are listening to this interview and they're going to be like, yes, I'm ready to write a book. So I'm so glad that you shared some of these, especially these 3 questions to ask. Like, I think those are going to be super powerful for us business owners, just to sit back and be like, all right, am I ready? Like, or when I can answer yes to all 3 of these, then I know it's time. So thank you so much for sharing your story.
Oh, you're so welcome. I do want to say something just real quick to the people who see these questions. And I've got a free download, that a free guide that can take people through them. So we went through them kind of fast. If you want a worksheet that will help guide you through them, I've got that for you. And Darlene will share that with you guys. But if you're looking at these questions and thinking, I really wanted her to tell me I was ready, but I don't really know my theme yet, or I know what I want to write about, but this is not going to help my ideal client, or I have no idea how it's going to fit into my business. If that's you, but you're still feeling that pull to the page, like you still feel that desire, that dream to write, that's okay. Don't feel bad about that at all. So many of us have been there. You can still honor that pull to the page. You can still write, but just know that it's maybe not a smart business strategy for you right now. But write as a hobby, write, in your spare time, journal about the theme of your story. If you don't know what it is yet, about your experiences, try to get a a solid grip on that through writing. Write for your blog, for your email subscribers. You can write and indulge with words and enjoy and love writing in all these ways, even if you're not quite ready to write the book yet. And if you are ready and you've get excited, this is awesome if you've been able to identify that and make time for writing, make time to start going down that journey, because you can feel confident that you've got something great to do with your writing.
I love that. Yes. All right. So I have, to kind of wrap up our interview, I have 4 rapid fire questions for you, just so we can learn a little bit more about Liz. So I'm curious, do you have a morning routine? And if so, what does your morning look like?
My morning's such a gong show.
I love that you're honest.
Yeah, I'm a night owl. I do all my best writing from 10 p.m. onwards, but I have a 2-year-old son. So the last few years I've been getting up in the mornings, and it's a bit of a mess for me. And what I've recently been trying to get a better handle on it, because I know I want to level up my business. I want to work with more people, coach more people through their books. I know what I'm doing is working, so I want to work with more people and really level that up. So I have actually been thinking about my morning routines and trying to experiment with a few different things lately. Haven't quite landed on a solid routine yet, but I'm working on it. I'm trying different things out and seeing I'm learning what doesn't work for me. Yeah. We'll put it that way.
That's perfect. And it's a learning experience. I know for myself, some days my morning routine is on point and it goes perfectly. And I have a nice, what I call slow morning. I get up, I have my coffee, I've had some quiet time for myself. Maybe I've journaled or read, and then my kids come down the stairs and we're all happy. And the kids are eating cereal and it's perfect. And then other days it's
rainbows.
Yeah, it's perfect. And then other days my kids are in my bed waking me up, and it's we get out of bed and it's we have to make lunches, have breakfast, take showers, get dressed. And it's it's craziness. So every day can be different. So give yourself some grace, because I don't even think, even those that I feel share that they have this perfect morning, I'm you don't always have a perfect morning. There's no way it's not smooth every single day, especially when we have kids, right?
Yeah, right. So yeah, I'm a work in progress on that one. Feel free to send me your advice if you
Right. How do we master this? All right. So second question, what book has made the biggest impact on your growth?
Such a good question. Lots of different books at different stages of life. Most recently, it's been a book called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. And I read this book twice in a row. He's a former FBI hostage negotiator who talks about how to negotiate for the sake of sales. He's talking about sales, when you're in business, how to negotiate great sales. But what I found was that so many of the techniques of dealing with terrorists are really helpful for coaching people through figuring out their books, which is the weirdest comparison. But he's talking about, how to get through to what people really want. What does a terrorist really want? Do they really want the money, or is this about something bigger than the money? And when we're writing books, what are you really trying to say? What do you really want to get across here? Let's take it a level deeper. And I loved this book so much. It helped so much with my professional development and my abilities as a book coach. I don't know if that really helps, you guys watching this, but if you're looking to up-level your sales skills or your coaching skills, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss is a brilliant book.
Yes, and I've heard that before, that knowing how to negotiate with a terrorist is just like negotiating with a child or with a client. So you can use it in so many different ways. So I love that you brought that book up. All right, and last question. To go with our theme of the summit, what does attract and stand out mean to you?
To me, it means, I'm going to say this with a pinch of salt, it means finding your voice. And I'm laughing as I say this, because a question I get really frequently is, how do I find my voice in my writing? People are blogging or trying to write a book, and it just sounds kind of awkward and stilted and not really like them. And they're like, how do I find my voice? And they hate my answer every time, because my answer is that you just have to keep writing. You just have to do it over and over and over. It's practice. You're practicing a skill of writing as you genuinely communicate in other forms. So people hate that because it's not fast and it means they have to do a lot of work. But I feel like it kind of takes the pressure off, actually, because you don't have to do any specific exercises or this or that or whatever. You just have to keep doing what you're doing and it will fall into place. And you can take the pressure off yourself and know that if you just keep going, you will find your voice. And when you find your voice, you will attract people to you and you will stand out, because those are the unique things about you. You don't have to design packages that are the most unique package on earth to sell, because that's impossible. There are so many people selling things, doing things. You know, it's really hard to be genuinely unique in terms of what the physical thing of what you're selling, or the, you know, entity. But you can be unique and stand out and attract people to who you are if you can talk to them genuinely and honestly and be yourself as you're talking to them. That's going to make you stand out.
I love that. Thank you. All right. And you've already alluded that you have an amazing free gift for everybody. So down below this video, you'll be able to grab Liz's gift and walk yourself through those questions and schedule a call with Liz and see, like, are you ready for a book? Like, have her walk you through that process. And then for those of us that just want to
work through the questions, and then there's also you can take your answers. The worksheet will guide you to take those answers and put them into a statement that you can print off, stick on your desk or your computer, your wall, and remind yourself of either why you're not writing your book right now because you're going to prioritize these other things or whatever the answer is, or why you want to kick yourself in the butt and make time to write. You can have that reminder next to you all the time.
Awesome. And for those of us that want to connect with you more and just kind of start following you and seeing what you're up to, where do you like to hang out on social media? Where can we find you?
On social media, I'm on Facebook at, what am I on Facebook? I'm on Facebook at Green Goose Writing, and I'm also on Twitter at Liz Green Goose. Green like the color, goose like the bird.
Awesome. So go find Liz. And Liz, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule and helping us kind of start thinking really seriously about, you know, are we ready for a book? And if not, like, let the guilt go and do it in 5-10 years. Or if you're ready, like, let's sit down and do this. So thank you for taking time with us today. It's been so fun to talk with you.
You're so welcome. Feel free to reach out to me, everyone. Shoot me any questions that you have. I love talking about this stuff. So yeah, reach on out.